everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on Astrology Today with Jeff Harman. It's Monday, May 6th, and tomorrow is a new moon, May 7th. Jeff's going to go into that and also, of course, touch on our current energies. So let's get going, Jeff.
Thanks for that. Yeah, we got a new moon tomorrow. It's going to be coming in right at about 8:23 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, if you're on the East Coast, it'll be about 11:23 p.m. New moons again happen every single month. It's when the sun joins the moon. This is very powerful, always to do meditations and also just reset the energy. And if you get in touch with it, we get off the internet and we really start just looking at energy and nature, you can actually feel it. It becomes a really solemn and powerful energy that's really kind of unique for us. So this one is happening in the sidereal degree of it's a 14th degree of sidereal Aries. Or if you want to be specific, it's right at about 13 degrees Aries, 52 minutes in the sidereal zodiac. In the tropical, it's, again, 24 degrees difference. It'll be ahead 18 degrees 02 in the tropical. So it's 24 degrees ahead. So what does all this mean? Well, again, these are turbulent times. This is election year, and more importantly, the United States is going through this Pluto return. And what have we seen? All the riots, the Soros-backed agitators. In fact, they've been finding all kinds of ties financially back to the Gates Foundation and the Soros Foundation funding these agitators, actually being coached at the universities. And we're going to see a lot more of this, I think. Truly, it's a good time to meditate a little bit about, let's hope it doesn't get nuts. But I think we're going to see, again, a lot of intense energies as Mars gets close to this eclipse point on the 25th of this month, of May 25th. It's approaching the eclipse point. So again, this is a time where I think we're going to see more and more tensions line up into this summer. Remember, we got the Pluto return hitting again this September, and we also have, it's actually in July, in the end of July, and we have the Mars being conjuncted by the solar arc Saturn of the United States. So this is very, very powerful stuff. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope nothing happens. A lot of people are predicting nothing but trouble. If we listen to many other astrologers and psychics and intuitives, many people are predicting financial crashes. I actually had a question on that someone posed me. Are we going to see a financial catastrophic 1929 type crash? I actually see by the chart, no. But I do see a lot of tension, a lot of violence, a lot of deception. I do think we're going to see banks failing. There's no question about that. But I think the Fed's going to shovel more money into the furnace and keep it going. So, and that's a good thing actually in this case, because if they were to have a financial crash or we were to see a snowball effect, we would really see a devastating time. I think we're going to see much more violence, terrorist attacks, and also possibly hacking, the internet hacking. I've noticed the internet's been showing a lot of strange anomalies lately. A lot of people have been reporting that. And I would say that's more the side of the coin that it happens on. So anyways, this is a good time. This new moon could have some stuff out of the blue too, because what happens is on the 12th, which is of course coming up next Friday, we're going to see the sun conjunct Uranus, and that's always out of the blue, unusual stuff. I had mentioned last week that we had the Mars conjuncting Neptune. And it was wild because I remember I was actually riding back on the 405 in California that night, and I saw a bunch of bad accidents, and a guy had crashed right into a fire hydrant, and the water was shooting up in the air. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, that is definitely Mars conjunct Neptune. And then down the street, I saw a bunch more car parts strewn all over the intersection where someone, again, Mars and Neptune is always strange energy. So this Friday, we got the sun conjuncting Uranus, which is a bit dicey as well, out of the blue stuff, unexpected stuff. And that really comes in orb as it's approaching all day. This actually happens at about 2 a.m. on the 12th. And some people would call it the 13th because some people take sunrise as the new day and other people take midnight. So this will actually be technically early AM on the 13th. when the sun conjuncts Uranus. So this is powerful stuff. And we always have the sun conjuncts Uranus every year. It's not the end of the world. We get a new moon every month. It's not the end of the world. But I think with the background tensions we're seeing all over the globe, as well as here in the United States, they do have a very powerful triggering effect. So expect some stuff out of the blue, and then again, meditate on this new moon. It's a good thing. The big thing I see coming up is the roller coaster ride on finances, and inflation still keeps hiking up, no matter what they tell us, no matter how many polls they put in front of us to make us feel good. The job markets is in a sad, sorry state, and I also see the finances are not stable at all. And the derivatives markets I've been hearing is horrible. But I still think they're going to keep shoveling money into the furnace and keep it going, because that's what they do. And in this sense, the Fed is actually really smart to keep the game going. It's too big to fail. Ellen Greenspan said that years ago, back in the 70s and 80s. He would say it's too big to fail. And in some ways, it kind of is. You have so much power and inertia. But I think we could see the housing market shift. Now, the Fed is predicting that they're going to come down a couple, points or something on the interest rates, which they might do. I get it's probably going to be a little bit later this summer before they do that. And again, it's an election year. They want to make things look better and stimulate things and make things get more happening. So that's kind of what I see going on with the current energies. Again, it's a time to really be safe. I think we're going to see increased violence, and I think we're going to see increased hacking. That's what I see, and roller coaster rides on the financial markets. So one of the things, I want to change the subject here. Go ahead.
To touch on the financial stuff a bit, someone was talking about purchasing the King Charles silver coins, right? How that might be an
That's right. That's right. And that actually might be a really good buy. And I'll tell you why. King Charles has cancer, and I don't think he's going to be around that long. We could take a look at his chart sometime. I don't have it up ready for this podcast to present, but we could look at that. And I think the King Charles coined silvers are going to be worth something. There's no question about that, because when he passes away, whether you're into the royals or not, it's going to shoot the value of that up. I think right now, silver and gold both are decent markets to get into. Not that I'm advising anybody to do anything, but I think they're solid. Are they going to shoot to, is gold going to shoot to $20,000 an ounce like everybody's been predicting? Probably not. But sustainability is what gold's all about, is hanging on to your money. So I really think the Fed is going to keep bailing the banks out no matter what happens. They have to. But we've got the BRICS nations polarizing, and there's been a lot of speaking about this, where China and Russia are buying up a lot of gold. And we're also seeing Iraq and Iran and all these Middle East and Saudi Arabia. They're all polarizing here. So one of the biggest dangers are like Japan's been having a lot of problems, and Japan holds a huge amount of our derivatives. So it's very critical right now. The whole financial world financially is teetering, and it's always about the money. And I always say, what do you start with? Prosperity, recession, depression, and war. And it's true. We do. And that's been the MO for a long, long time. And let's hope the last one, the war, doesn't have to happen. There's always perpetual wars, but this feeds the industrial military complex, and it creates a lot of money. Like all this money that they just poured into Ukraine and Israel, I can tell you right now, it's feeding the U.S. economy, because the weapons manufacturing and all the things that's behind it stimulates this economy. And it'd be nice if we could find another way to do that, but that's been the MO, at least in this modern era, for the last 150 years. So, and they're continuing to show that model is the one they're sticking with at this point. So until we go digital currency, which I hope we don't anytime soon, that seems to be where it's at.
Yeah. Well, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about this week in particular about keeping our health through these challenging times. And I know you're a big
Yes.
believer and supporter and promoter of you start talking about it, but definitely of the reflex roller, the reflexology roller.
Oh, yeah. I have a story to tell. It's interesting because two or three other clients of mine have a similar rising sign to me. So what's interesting, and of course that can happen to anybody at a different age, right? Well, what's happened is I've got Saturn on the cusp of my eighth house. What does that mean? Transformation and change. So anybody who has tropical Leo rising or sidereal Cancer rising is going to find Saturn is going to be very close to the cusp of their eighth house. If you're sidereal Cancer, it's going to be well into your eighth house. So here's the thing. Mars and Saturn just conjoined here about a month ago. And of course, notice all the violence, the riots and everything, see the intensity. And of course, Mars is now going to keep eking its way along. Well, my hip locked up. And back in the 70s, I had a bad motorcycle accident. I've had a few, accidents on horses and other things too. And I got rear-ended once. So my left leg got broke, my ankle did. And it's always torqued my hip. Well, right when Mars came in, I had my hip really hurting me, my SI joint. And interestingly enough, so did a couple of other clients who had the same aspects. Their hips were locking up really bad. So it was really scaring me. I went to the chiropractor. I did a bunch of things, right? And one of the things that I came to conclusion on, my neck was so stiff. My back was so stiff. I felt like a 93-year-old man. I couldn't stand up straight, right? And I thought, wow, this is really scary. So I got to do something about this. And then it hit me. I went, Jeff, the adrenals, right? So I cracked open, and I want to show this here on the screen. The adrenals produce the most purest cortisone known to humanity. In fact, back in the 70s, I used to do carpentry work. And one of my boss had bursitis in the elbow. And he used to go into the doctor and with the 4-inch needles, and I'd cram them in there and get shot up with cortisone, which might last a few days, if even that. And it really hurts when you get it, and it's expensive. But do you know, inside of our own magical bodies, we have the most pure adrenaline creating and cortisone creating glands called the adrenals. In fact, all of our glandular systems, when you really stop and think about it, it's magical. Our glands create the purest chemicals. Same thing in the brain, the interleukins and all the different chemicals in our brain. We have the most perfect chemistry set right in our bodies. And the older we get, the more these glands and the meridians in the feet and the hands can start to get calcified. This is why you notice people, as they really get on in age in their 80s and 90s, they can get hunched over. They can look really kind of, sucked in. And that's because the body is not, its glands are not producing like they were when we were young. Well, here's what I did. I got on the reflex roller and I started hammering the adrenal glands at the bottom, and you'll see at the bottom and the center of the feet. Unbelievable. I could feel the magic immediately. Within 5 minutes, I could just feel my whole body starting to sensate. And literally, my neck started popping. I literally could put my neck all the way back. And I noticed it still hurt in my SI joint because I had really kind of damaged it. But I was able to stand up straight. And my back was getting straight. And this is so magical. I always tell the story of my 75-year-old grandmother in 1982. She was born in 1907, who the doctors wanted to take her kidneys out. And my mother was a specialist in hemodialysis. And I can tell you, everybody I saw who had their kidneys out lived a very compromised life. And they were lucky if they lived 3 to 7 years, 10 tops after that. And I got her on reflexology. And literally, she died at 102 years old with 2 functioning kidneys because of the reflexology and the kidney cleansing herbs we used: hydrangea root, gravel root, marshmallow root, and goldenrod tea. And it's stunning. And all of us, no matter what our ages, can benefit so much from this. I mean, I don't dissuade anybody from seeing the doctors. Doctors have great science in the allopathic world. They detect what's wrong. But oftentimes, they're looking at symptoms rather than causes. And we have the magic to do the reflexology not only in the feet, but in the hands. And I got to tell you, the adrenal gland is right here. And I got my old trusty hammer, and I was in there hammering away on the adrenal points, and it hurts. And let me tell you, when you have blockages, it often hurts when you break up the crystals, and you got to go in deep. And if you're older, be careful. Go slow, take it slow, because if any of you have never done reflexology, it's really wise to go slow. Don't just hammer it right away. But I've been doing reflexology for 40 something years. And I got to tell you, it was magical. And I'm so glad I thought of it, because I was in so much pain. I was so stiff. And the minute I did that, it was magic. I mean, I feel so much better. And granted, Mars did move a little bit through my eighth house, where it wasn't on the difficult points. And I got to tell you, Mars is the crown chakra energy. It's the voltage that pushes the chi, or the life flow, through the body. And it's magical. I just can't say enough about reflexology and eating well. It's really magical. There's no reason we cannot live long, reasonably healthy lives. And I think the older we get, the more we got to pay attention to this. Most people I've spoken to in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they've never even done reflexology. And I think if they tried it, it would be magical. Always, keep seeing your doctor or whatever it is you do. But this is something that can actually, it's like the Tin Man. You can oil the joints and get them moving. So it was really fun to discover.
Awesome. Yeah, I use it too. I used it this morning. I didn't have a chance to tell you that yet, but I used it this morning because I felt really stressed out. So another thing that's great about using the reflexology is that it helps to ground you. It helps to de-stress you. You don't actually need to be sick to use it. You can use it to keep up your health, right?
Exactly right. That is exactly right.
Yeah, and it feels great. It feels great.
It really does.
It's like having your feet massaged or your hands massaged. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with going to practitioners, reflexologists, Reiki practitioners, but this is stuff most people, I was on a session earlier today with a person who runs a big campus. So there's like 8 schools on this campus. And she's a wonderful lady. And she, again, I told her about this because she's been having some issues, that she's had to deal with. And she's just, oh my God, this is perfect because I can take this reflex roller to work or to people who are in their living rooms in front of their TVs or at their computer desks at home. You can put this under your desk. I just recommend really focus. Put your mind, get the diagrams and have them in front of you. Become very familiar with where all these organ points are in the meridians, both in the hands and in the feet. And really concentrate when you do this and push a lot of water afterwards. Again, it's always good to see the doctor. They're going to see the lab work and the blood work and all that stuff if you're doing that. And if you're on meds, this actually has been reported to improve the effectiveness of medication because your kidneys, your liver, and your lungs are all detoxing better. So the side effects could become potentially less. But I love reflexology. I cannot say enough. I have healed, and that's a dirty word in medicine. I have actually healed more things in my body. And I can't tell you, my first motorcycle was 1967. So that'll give you an idea how many times I wiped out. So, I bounced off of everything. I was a crazy kid, crazy teenager, horses, motorcycles, snowmobiles, you name it. And, most people were when they were younger. They always were aggressive. We were all out doing things, sports, motorcycles, whatever it is you do. And, the body gets traumatized when it gets hurt, or maybe some of you have been in accidents. This is not to replace medical advice or anything like that, but this is a miraculous thing that you can do that can really supplement whatever you're going through, because the adrenals supply cortisone, which, what does it do? Reduces inflammation. Inflammation, any doctor will tell you, this is the number one reason we age and have so much trouble is inflammation. Cortisone, the natural cortisone your own body makes for free. All you got to do is eat and open up the adrenal glands, both in the hands and the feet. It's magical. Absolutely magical. Can't say enough about it.
Absolutely. And during a new moon is not a bad time to start, actually, when you think about it, right?
You bet.
Right?
That's exactly right. That's right. During the waning moon, energies tend to be expelled. It's a great time for detoxification. The new moon, the waxing moon, starts, and of course, that's growth. That's where we initiate. See, when the sun, which is the seed of creation, joins the moon, which is the crucible. See, and it's also indicative of dad is the seed, right? Mom's womb is the moon. And the seed goes into the womb, just like farmer puts the seed in the ground, and spirit becomes contained, and then it becomes manifest on the cross, which is the physical plane. Take a look at all the glyphs of the planets. Each one of them is combinations of the circle, which is the seed of creation, the moon, which is the crucible, and the cross, which is spirit manifest. And yeah, so new moons are all about that. It's a rejuvenation of the sacred energy rejuvenating itself every month. And the more we get in touch with this, the more we keep a little more sanity too, because the world's insane, right?
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I love this. I love this. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining us on Mondays. Happy new moon. We'll see you next week on Astrology Today with Jeff Harman.